The DNA was discovered by Friedrich Miescher in the year of 1868, but it wasn't recognized until 1943 thanks to an experiment executed by Oswald Avery. DNA structure is a pair of two nucleotide chains that form a helix shape. That structure was discovered in 1953 by James Watson and Francis Crick. This was the discovery that granted their Nobel Prize. The DNA extraction is useful to identify and analyze the genes of a person. A gene is fundamental physical and functional unit of heredity. A gene is a segment of DNA on a specific site of a chromosome that is responsible for the physical and inheritable characteristics of a phenotype of an organism. The first isolation of DNA was made by its same discoverer, Mirscher. He chose to study white blood cells, and in the moment they were very easy to get as they were available in the hospital near of his university. That was the first time he or anybody else isolated a material rich of phosphorus from the cells, called nuclein. In order to be contextualized, when entering the lab, we had to know what were the instruments used and why they were being used. For example, we found out that one of the most important materials used was the centrifuge. It is used to seclude materials in the samples tube that we might not need in the process, and what it does is that because of the material's weight, the heavier ones go to the bottom and the rest stays in a liquefied state in the top. This material stays this material that stays in the bottom is called a pellet. After we centrifugate, we extract the supernatant or sobrenadado that contains the material we need the most. Another instrument that is essential in this process is the vortex machine. This machine creates a vibration in a large quantity that is very helpful when someone needs to quickly homogenize any substance or sample.
The first step that we used was to add 2 millimeters of blood and we place it into a 15 strand tube. Then we add 8 millimeters of T-bufen and shake it to clean the blood to have a better vision of DNA. After that, we add TTE to increase the volume of it. The next stage was to centrifuge the substance at 4000 rpm during 10 minutes to keep what we need and to expose what we don't need. After that, we add 1 millimeter of lysis buffer to put it on the vortex 40 seconds. Then we have to add to it 67 microliters to put it into the vortex 40 seconds. Then we centrifuge the substance at 10 minutes at 4000 rpm. After that, we add 300 microliters of sodium chloride and centrifuge it at 4000 rpm to transfer the supernatant to a more clear vision of precipitation of DNA. Finally, we centrifuge another time at 400 at 10 minutes, and finally we remove the supernatant to see exactly the precipitation of DNA.
In regards to the results, it was possible to see a DNA precipitated which looked kind of viscous. The DNA precipitated was not very clear to see nor was abundant in quantity, but in the end we managed to identify it. Maybe with more time and more steps, the result would have been much better because according to the process, we missed some steps. In the first place, we needed to centrifuge or precipitate for 10 minutes by 4000 rpms. This would have improved the quality of the DNA isolation. Another way in which the quality could have been improved is by adding more detergent because more cells would have been broken apart and liberate their nucleus. But to conclude the analysis, it is important to say that the DNA precipitated was found and thus we achieved our objective of isolating DNA.
Well, analyzing the results, I think that taking account that like short time that we have because for this lab was a short time, also that affects in the like it's not a lie that many people want like to go to recess and everything, or when we were in recess to be in recess. So at the moment of seeing all the blood and where is the DNA, that precaution that we need really was lost because in my case of my group, Acuna were the one that must be leading everything, but also like Valencia, Hernandez, and I want to see everything. So while we take that, I think that first the pulse of Acuna was not the best one, and also when he passed it to our bad pulse, really, really it will affect.
In order to have the perfect results and the perfect process of DNA extraction in a near future, hopefully, it would be very helpful if we get more time and planning of the exercise, so we can have time for the incubation step that is one of the most important and significant steps that allows us to have a clear and rich result of DNA, and also so we can be more patient when having to move around the lab and go, for example, to go apply vortex or put the sample in a centrifugator. Another important factor that could help us in the future is to organize really well the groups, so each group has one member of molecular biology, and if it is possible, that member would be the one who manages the sample and applies all methods during the execution, without leaving apart the explanation and uh, showing of all the processes so the rest of the people can learn. This is because the member of molecular biology has a larger previous knowledge of how to handle the substances and how to execute each procedure that is very important so we can get a better and clear result.
For conclude this lab and this podcast, it's important to tell two topics. First, the time. We think that we could have better results and more clear DNA first if we have more time, because with that time we could use the three steps that we missed. So, seeing this, we think that the use of time, well, it's about the school and we can't do nothing in that, and also the teacher, but if there is another chance to do it, it will be better with more time than a class and a recess, because it seems that this is a real serious lab, which comparing it with the extraction of DNA of a banana, it changed because first the interaction between the banana and what we do with the blood was completely different, because in the banana we have everything and we were the ones that extracted, and in this case everything, especially were with the machines that the lab of Mauricio help us for saturing all the blood and everything. So I think that the use of time will be better, and also in a lab that must be really like taking with a lot of precaution, sorry, because that precaution is like the most important in these labs, because for taking all the plasma out, the it that rush that the blood has, and to let all the DNA like be a perfect extraction of DNA must have time and more dedication, because also like having all the like our like pools, also that affects, because maybe it was not, we are not like professionals making this, so also that affects. In concluding this, so the two topics are that first the time, and also that deprecation that we have, because we tried, but how was our first time making this, and must be like having everything in the eyes, really like when we shake it really soft and everything, it must be really like only one person, and maybe we feel like all the group wanted to see, and the teacher and everything, so it could affect that the result. But I think that with the use of time and more precaution, like having clear that only one person must be the one that touch it, for having a good samples and everything, it will work better. But I think it was a good work, unless that it could affect obviously the thing that I already said. So the work was good, but with the time I think that we could make a good extraction. But seeing that was our first time, I think that we did it really well.